The Lost Tapes.
Inside the lore of Dandy's world, we are told that there was a show in the 80s in which we could see our favorite tunes in different situations. These chapters are lost. Because of this, Lucky has created an alternative universe in which these lost tapes have a timey air. We'll see each tune he has worked on and the variations he has made, and I'll pick my 5 favorites. So, let's begin. Everything started with the Babette design. On his post, he mentions that, indeed, he plays Dandy's World on Roblox in general. The first time he made a Dandy design, he looked this way. Instead of having 6 petals, the design has 7. He has a tail with a 5-petal flower in the end. He is taller and has a thinner complexion. Later, he made this video, in which we can observe Dandy, who seems to be made of claymation. From this post, many people discovered the characteristic and peculiar style Lucky has when making his animations, and he continued. The second tune presented was B, which possesses a very similar design to the original. The antennae are a little different though, and has 2 buttons on her head, but keeping all the elements we know of B. The most popular duo in Dandy's World was presented with their skins Salted Caramel and Caramel Drizzle in a video baking pastries. Cosmo has a very similar design to the original. Nonetheless, Sprout has a more triangular form on his strawberry head, and it is stylized to look like a snout. The next tune, Louie, has some design and color differences. His head is tied to his body through a rope, like on his twisted version. His head is similar to that of a balloon dog, and the green shades on his body were changed for cyan ones. Shelley's design adds several elements that make her, in my opinion, have much more personality and tells us about her interests, fossils. She has goggles and boots, also a small fang that pops from her mouth. Becoming the first one of my 5 favorites, and I'd really enjoy if one of these elements were present in the original game. Yara has a very similar design. Although her head is a little smaller, we can see her trying to break a piñata, which goes away after being hit. On this design, Poppy changes a little bit compared to the original. Her bow has a couple of ribbons, her clothing has some additional details in yellow, and she is seen shaking a can of pop, which ends up splattering because of how shaky it was. Then we see the second teen duo, Ragebait, composed by Shrimpo and Finn. On this design of Finn, we can notice that, like on his skin, Prismatic Paw, he has a pair of fins in his head and uses a snorkel. Shrimpo, on the other hand, is very similar to the original, though we can see he has spike bracelets on both arms. Astor's design has a lot of detail. It counts with multiple stars around his body. His moon face is yellow, his blanket is different, and also the shape of his star eye has changed. With all these changes, Astor is my second favorite, since I think he looks amazing on this style.
But before thanking your support, I'll be preparing a poster with all of you. Each video I'll pick one of your roses at random to include it. To participate, post a drawing of yours in my YouTube community, or tag me on TikTok or Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to never miss any content of Dandy's World.
On the third occasion he showed Dandy with his style, he made him look more similar to the first one, this time having 6 petals on his head though. Has a sort of collar or smaller petals coming from his neck, and we can notice he has each of his fingers visible. Besides him, there's Pebble, who seems to have a very similar look to the original. Glisten has numerous ribbons on his design, one on his head, another one on each wrist, and the same one he has on his original design. He has lashes on this version and has black limbs, similar to his scrap version, which if you want to know more in detail along with all the scrap content made for Dandy's World, I'll leave them on the top right corner and the link in the description.
Toodles looks quite vivid on this version. She has a pair of 8s on the reflection of her pupils, a hoodie with a rainbow drawn, and on the back we can see she wears a backpack. But most importantly, that she is a magic 8-ball, so you could shake Toodles while asking a question to test your luck.
In this universe, Tisha's design has a more human body, wears a maid uniform and a duster. Her hands disturb me a little. The second design Lucky has made for Glisten was this one. It is actually a design of another alternative universe called Dandy's World Retired, in which the tunes were actually child stars, dropping their careers and now all of them being losers. We can see Glisten wearing a pink dress and pearls, holding a microphone. This design of Goop, also based on a different alternative universe, called Beyond the Garden, which is inspired in shows like Steven Universe. We can observe Goop has more fur, a tail with a heart, and a pouch with a couple of crayons inside. After these 3D designs, he shared a couple of illustrations. The first one is about Sprout, which is similar to the first one we saw besides Cosmo. Here we can see how he is tripping about to let a cake fall. He is taller with a thinner tail and a leaf at the end. In this illustration of Poppy, we can see her throwing a can of pop on the floor. Her clothing reminds of the previously shown, with a similar complexion to Sprout. Afterwards, I found this Dandy, which is the most unique one out of the bunch. This one is also based on an alternative universe Beyond the Garden. Seems to be made of clay, has a big nose, and uses a short with an overall and a printed rainbow.
Later, he shared this commission, in which we can observe the tunes with the style of a show called Snorks, a cartoon from the 1980s produced by Hanna-Barbera. In this case, it was not made by Lucky, but by Yin Yang Yo 14. However, it will be important for later, so remember them. Moving on with the designs made by Lucky, Ginger was shown. Her clothes are similar to the one we know, but instead of a blouse, it is a red dress with a white apron. She has a small red ribbon on her hair and has cookie decorations on her face.
This was one of the first clips I knew of Lucky's alternative universe. We can see Scraps trying to find a box of crayons. When failing her attempt to climb up, she tries to hold on the shelf with her claws and use her tail to reach them, though she doesn't. Her appearance makes it clear that she is a papercraft. Her head is thin and has small details of stars pasted on her outside of that. She's very similar to the original. Since this was the first video I got to see of Lucky's owl, and the thing that convinced me to make this video, I consider Scraps my third favorite. Here, Poppy has a very different design. Her hair has a style inspired by the fashion of the 1980s, this time wearing a shirt with red lines, a pink bow with yellow dots, and she seems to be watching TV, not finding anything good. Additionally, we observe what appears to be a can of Pepsi. He published a puppet design again, this time wearing a Christmas sweater in which prevails a red shade. She also wears a belt. A new Glisten design in 2D in which we can see him wearing a red dress, has makeup and holds a microphone. The first time we see Rudy on his style, he seems to be from a claymation, has jingle bells on his hoops, and in general, he looks very similar to the original design. This second B design was presented. She's using a spaceship to shooting what seems to be a video game. On this design, B wears a green dress and uses some sort of glasses connected to a pair of Tesla coils she has on each side of her head. With this design, B becomes my fourth favorite of this universe since all the elements Lucky added look great on her. Louie has a completely different design, wearing very colorful clothing, has a clown horn with him, and his shoes seems to have a bell at the tips. In my opinion, Bassie looks fantastic, although her hands scare me a bit. The flowers in the dress on the other hand are great adaptations from the original design. On this video, we can see Sprout, apparently in the kitchen, since he wears a chef hat and an apron. It's very similar to the designs we've seen by Lucky before. Cosmo on his design seems to be a bit cotton-like, wears a chef hat too, an apron and a pair of globes. On this video, we can see one of my favorite creations by Lucky. Since Astro looks like an animatronic, it's very similar to the original, although we can see he has a small light at the end of his hat that appears to be a star. Continuing with this animatronic style, Dandy here looks very real. Only has 5 petals and wears a blue overall. This animatronic style for Dandy becomes my fifth and last favorite, since it can easily be confused by real life footage. And it looks amazing. I love to see more designs like this. Remember that commission Lucky bought and that I told you to save for later? Well, on this design, taking inspiration from the ones made by Yin Yang Yo 14, Lucky tried to make a sort of 3D that pretends to be 2D to make more animations. Here Sprout is much more similar to the original design. With Dandy, he did the same. Using the commission as a reference, he made this 3D design that pretends to be 2D animation. We can see Dandy with 5 petals and a small tail. He even made an animation in which he's speaking and mentioned that if someone wanted to give him a voice, they should go ahead, and the final result was something like this.
Gee, that sure was fun. You got to experience all sorts of things here in Garden View today. Did you learn anything fun? Come on, don't be shy, tell Dandy. Oh, you learned some dino facts with Shelly? Well, ain't that nice? Hopefully you put them to good use in V's game show. Well, I hope you had a fun time here in Garden View today, kids, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye-bye, y'all.
Having in consideration all these tests he did previously, he made this puppy design. It's very similar to the one he made before, although this time it was done with this technique of 3D that simulates 2D. On the same line, we observe Shelly, who has a very similar design to the first one proposed, and it looks amazing. I like Tisha much more on this version compared to the previous one. Let's hope Lucky gets the motivation of making more shorts of the tunes interacting on this style. The second version of Goop changes a little the shape of the body and the face. He has a small red nose, shows his tongue and keeps the spotting and the stars of his body. On this version, Sprout is shown in a real kitchen, as if it was some sort of live-action footage, though he keeps his cartoonish looks while letting us appreciate the depth of his 3D model. Same happens with Shelly on her dinosaur skin, but this time it's a little harder to believe it is a 3D model.
Moving on with more tunes, he published this kind of design. She has a bluer shade and a tiny purple nose. With the same design previously shown, we can observe Goop and Scraps. This second one also has a nose, longer ears, and a couple of whiskers and a bell on her neck.
Poppy, with a design more similar to the original though this time, if we observe closely we can notice her head is floating. She doesn't have a neck, and so are these small bubbles coming from her hair. We can see Glisten wearing a dress one more time. This time it is pink. He has long white globes and some additional locks of hair on his head, alongside a small mole. A small clip in which Toodles looks up, showing us a tall Roger who seems to have a pipe, a hat and suit. With some small noticeable changes, we were shown another design for Dandy. This time he has his original 6 petals with its original colors. He keeps the tail shown before, and it's one of the designs made in the 3D that pretends to be 2D. Lastly, he shared this small video of Sprout, which seems to be combining both previous head designs. Sprout seems to be steering a dough from a bowl and wears a chef hat. These have been all the designs made by Lucky until now. With all of them shown, something is very clear, and that is